We can say that the recent sightings are in no way connected with any secret development by any agency of the United States.
In my position in the Research and Development Organization of the Bureau of Aeronautics and of the Navy Department, I am thoroughly familiar with both our aircraft and our guided missiles programs and can state without reservation that the Navy has no saucer-shaped aircraft or missile in any of these programs.
Those who are doubtful, read the books, read the lore, and start to understand what has really been going on, because there is no doubt we are being visited. And what I am suggesting is it is now time to put away this embargo of truth about the alien presence.
There were a number of extraterrestrial vehicles out there cruising around, flying the same kind of formation we fly in our fighters. They didn't have wings, they were saucer-shaped, and we never could get as high or as fast as they were. And they could do a few maneuvers that we couldn't do in an airplane, like just horizontally displace themselves rapidly. I had a film crew working for me on a project I was doing to put a precision landing system in on the edge of the dry lake bed, and a small saucer apparently flew overhead and put down some landing gear and landed out on the dry lake bed, only about 50 yards out. And with that, it lifted up, put the gear back in, and at a very high rate of speed disappeared. So they came in to tell me what happened. I told them to get over to the lab and develop the film immediately. And I would go and look in the book, regulation book, and see what you're supposed to do, who you have to call to report these kind of incidents. Which I did.
And Major Vansman said, "Watch this," and turned on the film projector. And I watched the screen, and there was the launch. And into the frame came something else. It flew into the frame like this, and it shot a beam of light at the warhead, which is represented by my thumb here. Now, remember, all this stuff is flying at several thousand miles an hour. So this thing fires a beam of light at the warhead, hits it, and then this thing flies up like this. Meanwhile, we're all going like this, fires another beam of light, goes around like this, we're going like this, fires another beam of light, goes down like this, fires another beam of light, and then flies out the way it came in. And the warhead tumbles out of space. And he said, "What was that?" And I said, "It looks to me like we got a UFO."
I was stationed at Malmstrom Air Force Base, Montana, as a missile launch officer, monitoring and controlling 10 nuclear-tipped Minuteman missiles. I got a call that morning that they were seeing strange lights flying in the sky. I got another call subsequent to that call, and this time it was a more intense tone in the guard's voice. It was very clearly very frightened. He said there was a bright, glowing red object hovering outside the front gate. It was oval-shaped. Right after that call, I woke up my commander, who was on a rest period, and told him about the phone calls. As I was telling him about the phone calls, my weapons started going down, one after the other. They went into a no-go condition, what we call a no-go condition. They were unlaunchable. We lost somewhere between 6 and 8 weapons that morning within minutes of having received that second phone call of a UFO hovering outside the front gate. We were informed that a very similar incident happened at Echo Flight. They lost all 10 of their weapons under similar circumstances, very similar circumstances, where UFOs were sighted over the launch facilities.
And I and about 25 men were standing around, and all of a sudden in the western sky we saw a strange light coming toward us, a round light, and it got closer and closer, and right above the pine trees it stopped, and then it began to change colors from blue to red to white. And then it stayed there for a while. We were all aghast. We didn't know what it was. And then it just disappeared into the west. That was the end of it. So it was a genuine UFO in that it was an unidentified flying object.
We suddenly observed a very bright red-orange object. It was oval and with a black center. It reminded me of an eye, and it appeared to be winking or blinking. It maneuvered horizontally through the trees with an occasional vertical movement. When approached, it receded and silently broke into 5 white objects. We moved out of the forest and onto a pasture and observed several objects in the sky, multiple objects to the north. They changed shape from elliptical to round. Several other objects were seen to the south. One approached at a very high speed and sent down a strange beam right at our feet. It was different than an ordinary light, and it didn't radiate. It was more like a laser beam. Another object sent down beams of light into the weapons storage area.
A silhouetted triangular craft about 9 feet long, 6.5 feet high, came into view. On one side of the craft, there were symbols that measured 3 inches high, and they're approximately about 2.5 feet long. The feeling I had during the encounter was like no type of aircraft that I've ever seen before. After roughly about 45 minutes, the light from the craft began to intensify. Burroughs and I then took a defensive position away from the craft as it lifted off the ground without any noise or air disturbance. It maneuvered through the trees and shot off at an unbelievable rate of speed. It was gone in a blink of an eye.
What these pilots detected was well outside the normal flying envelope of an airplane. Sometimes they had what we call lock-ons, which gave a parameters varying from speeds between 150 knots till 990 knots. An acceleration which occurred in a few seconds. These speeds would be impossible to tolerate for a human being. That's a first point. A second point is the visual observations always describe a system, a machine, which hangs and hovers above the surface at quite a low altitude without making any noise. Now, with the current technology, that will be impossible.